Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reacting to my third and final scary story channel, and it's Night Time Spooks. And the video that I'll be reacting to is 4 true arcade horror stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
This story took place many years ago when I was a kid.
Okay.
Back then, I used to go to the arcade all the time with my little brother. I would say I was about 12 and my brother was about 8.
Man, I remember them days when me and my folks went to a local movie theater. They had an arcade on the premises, and we would go there to spend the money to get these cards that are about this big, and you swipe them in the machines, and you will get tickets printed out after you get done playing them, and then you can exchange them tickets to purchase something behind the gift counter. And then years later, they just stopped doing tickets altogether, and you just scan your card and add the points to it. But anyway, let's continue with this person's story and see what happens next.
We lived about a 15-minute walk away from this arcade that had lots of fun games. There was Pac-Man, Frogger, Mortal Kombat, all the classics. My favorite was to play this one racing game that they had, and my brother usually played the fighting ones. One day, we went after school for a while, like we often did. It was fairly crowded there, and I remember the place would always be pretty dark inside, with bright colors coming from all the games.
Talk about a retro neon lit gaming area. But yeah, the games he just mentioned are very popular, but I kind of enjoyed the racing games too, where you could just sit down into this modulator type thing and just turn the steering wheel. And I think the arcade I went to had like a racing motorcycle game, so I got to sit on like a fake body of a motorcycle and just it actually shifted with you every time you turn your body. But when it's packed like this, it'll be impossible to find a game to play. You have to wait your turn.
I was playing my game, and then I remember looking over to my brother and seeing a man approaching him. He looked like he wanted to talk with my brother. I walked over to him at the same time because I needed more money for the games, and I was having him hold on to the money. As I approached my brother, I saw the man turn around and back off. Then he walked in another direction. I got some coins from my brother and then went back to my games. I did notice the man after that between my games. He didn't seem to be there with anyone, and he wasn't really playing the game, he was just kind of looking around.
Yeah, I guarantee that guy was just looking around to see if anybody else was paying attention to him or not, because he was planning on kidnapping his brother. But thank God he was walking over there to get some money from him, because then he noticed to back away. But pay close attention to your brother.
I was a little curious why he was approaching my brother earlier, so I was sure to keep a closer eye on my brother after that.
Good.
We stayed at the arcade for about another hour, and then we decided it was time to go home. I got my brother, and then we left the arcade and started walking on the sidewalk that led back to our house. When we left the arcade, though, I noticed that the man left as well. He was about 100 feet or so behind us. Our house was about maybe 10 blocks away from the arcade. We crossed the first street and walked down it for about 2 or 3 minutes before crossing another into our neighborhood. The whole time the man walked about 100 feet away from us. I told my brother to walk faster. He was clueless and didn't know why. I explained to him about the man at the arcade, and I felt like he was following us. My brother seemed a little concerned, and we picked up our pace a little bit. As we did, the man seemed to pick up his pace as well. We would look over our shoulders about once every minute or so. The man would always be looking in another direction as if to be inconspicuous. It was starting to really creep me out how the man was following us no matter where we turned.
Go to a payphone and call the cops and have him arrested.
We kept walking at a brisk speed until we could see our house in the distance. Then my brother and I started sprinting until we reached our front door. I unlocked it and we went inside. I felt much safer now that we were in the house. I was hoping that my parents would be back from work, but I saw that their cars were still not in the driveway, so they weren't home yet. Immediately, my brother and I looked out the window to see if we could see the man. We didn't see him, so we felt like we didn't have to worry about him anymore. I turned on the TV and we started watching it. About 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps coming up to the front door, and then I heard a doorknob turn. I assumed it was my mom or dad, so I walked over to the door to let them in. But when I passed the front window, I saw there was still no cars in the driveway. Immediately, I got a bad feeling and turned around.
Oh, crap. I was beginning to think that them boys ran so fast that they lost that guy altogether. And he just forgot about him and left. But nope, it seems like he knows that they went to that house. Grab the phone and call the cops. Or call your parents. But do something quickly before he decides to break the door in.
I ran back to the living room and told my brother. Just then, we both heard a knock on the living room window behind us and looked. It was the man from the arcade, and he was standing there at the window waving to us. He had a really creepy looking smile on his face. All we could do was run. We ran to my bedroom and shut the door. I don't know why I didn't think to call the police, but the thought just never crossed my mind. My brother and I both hid under my bed and waited for what felt like forever. The man would start knocking on windows here and there. It really creeped us out.
You should have thought about calling the cops, because then they can pull up and arrest that dude. And when your parents come home and he's gone, and you tell them what happened, they're going to say the same thing. But of course, I know you guys are terrified, so you won't think it clearly. But this is creepy.
I was afraid he was going to break into the house. Finally, I heard a car noise coming from outside, and shortly after that, the front door opened. It was my dad who had returned home from work. As soon as I heard his voice, my brother and I ran out from under the bed to my father and told him everything. He ended up calling the police. We had to talk to officers about what happened. I'm not sure if the man was ever found, but we never saw him again.
Oh God, I hope he was, because that would be creepy if you kept going back to that arcade and he was still there. But if you haven't seen him, he just probably gave up in that area and left to hang out somewhere else. Or skip town just so he can do the same thing in another arcade. You just don't know. But thank God his dad showed up and he believed what his boys were saying about a creepy guy following them and took it seriously to call the police. Something like that would make me not want to go back to an arcade ever again. But I'm just glad that they're okay, so let's get to story number 2.
About 5 years ago, when I was a little younger, I went to our state fair with my parents. There was lots of attractions at the fair, but my favorite back then had to be the rides in the arcade. I remember they had this huge arcade at the back corner of the fairgrounds, and it had all the arcade games you would expect.
You know, that is so fascinating because all the fairgrounds that I went to, I have never seen an arcade set up. That is cool. You get bored of riding the rides or playing the carnival games, you can just go in arcade and put your money in to play Pac-Man or Joust or Galaga or one of them other classic games.
One day when we were at the fair, I remember stopping by the arcade earlier in the day, and then we went back late at night right before we left. It was on our way back, and my parents saw something cool across the street from the arcade, so I went inside. By this time, it was pretty late, and nobody else was really in the arcade at all. I went to my favorite game, which was the one where you shoot the basketballs and see how many points you can get in a minute. I played a few rounds of that, and then I decided to see if my parents were ready to leave yet. But as soon as I turned around, the machine behind me started making a bunch of noise. It was a game that had a screen, sort of like Pac-Man, but I hadn't heard of this one before. The lights on the machine were flashing, and all the sound effects were on. It didn't seem to be on when I got in there. Then I looked at the screen, which was blank, and out of nowhere it turned on. It started out as the game screen, but then the text changed, and it started flashing random words. I had no idea what was going on, so I just ran out of the arcade as fast as I could back to my parents.
I mean, yeah, I would be freaking out too if I was a young kid in an arcade seeing a game glitch like that, because you never know, that game was programmed to turn on when somebody walks nearby it to hypnotize them or say that it's watching them. But that would be creepy. And plus, if you tell your parents, they probably just think the game was glitching.
To this day, I'm not sure if it was just some sort of malfunction or a prank or what, but I know it scared me bad that day, and I still get scared thinking about it. This story occurred when I was 8 years old. I remember it very well, even though it was 10 years ago now. I was at my friend Ben's birthday party. There was probably about 10 kids there. Me and Ben were not all that close of friends, but his party was at a local arcade, so I was more than excited to go. It was one of those arcades where you get tokens to play games, and if you win at the games, it gives you tickets. With your tickets, you can buy prizes from the arcade. I remember that we all got 20 tokens, and I was determined to get the most tickets of any kid. The arcade was pretty big, and we all spread out to find some games to play. I started off at this one game where you have to hit gophers as they come out of the ground. I got a lot of tickets at that, and then I played some other ones like the random spinning games.
I forgot to mention those are the type of games that I like to play as well because you get a lot of tickets when you whack the mole or gopher that was coming out of the holes, or if you pull on a lever and spin the wheel to see how many tickets you get, because then you can rack up a lot of tickets and then get bigger prizes that way.
I was doing pretty good, and I felt like I had a decent amount of tickets. After a while, I decided to count my tickets to see exactly how many I had, so I went off to the side and started. As I was counting, a man approached me. I didn't recognize him as anyone that worked there or that was part of Ben's party. He said hi to me and smiled, and then he said that I had a lot of tickets. I told him, yeah, I'm counting them right now. Then the man told me that he comes to the arcade all the time because he likes to play the games, but he's too old for the prizes. Then he said that he had a bunch of tickets and he would give some to me. I was pretty excited to hear this, so I told the man that I would like to have them. He told me he had them in his car and said to follow him.
Don't follow him to his car, because why else would a guy say he's got a bunch of tickets and he would gladly give them to you and don't even have them right there? It's a trap.
I had heard of older people giving away their tickets to kids before. In fact, some teenager had given me their tickets only a few months prior, so I wasn't suspicious at all. I gladly walked with the man right out the front door and into the parking lot. We walked to the side where his car was parked. His car was an old beater, and the man unlocked it and opened the back door. He told me to help myself, so I got in, and sure enough, there was a large stack of tickets. There had to be over 1,000, and they were all held together with rubber bands. As I was reaching for them, I heard the door slam shut behind me. I was confused at first, but then I got a terrible feeling. I saw the front door open and the man got in the driver's seat. Then he started the engine. Now I knew he wasn't just giving me free tickets. I started to get really scared, and the man started backing out. I tried to open the door, but it was locked, so as we were starting to drive away, I tried opening the window instead. The window started to roll down, and as it did, I saw a father with his son getting out of their car to go to the arcade. I made eye contact with them, and I waved and shouted help to them as loud as I could. As soon as the man driving saw that I had rolled down the window, he rolled it back up with his control and then locked it so I couldn't.
Dadgummit. This is why I said don't fall for that trick. He wanted to kidnap you for trafficking, probably, or for ransom. You never know. But thank God you got somebody's attention, so hopefully they will contact police real quick so they can go pull that car over.
But my cry for help seemed to be enough to raise concern from the father, because he started running and shouting at us. I think this made the man realize that he wouldn't be able to get away with it. First, he sped out of the parking lot and onto the street. I was very worried and felt like I had failed at my try to escape. But then, out of nowhere, the man pulled to the side of the road and told me to get out. He unlocked the door, and as soon as he did, I opened it and ran back. I sprinted all the way back to the arcade parking lot, and the man sped away. I saw the father and his son as soon as I got in the parking lot. He looked concerned, and I explained to him what had happened. I was returned to the party, but the police had to be called. It pretty much ended the birthday party, but everyone was glad that I was okay. The man ended up being caught a few days later.
Oh, thank God, because I'll be mad if he's still on the loose doing the same thing to somebody else. And I'm sorry I made a damper on your friend's birthday party, but they understand that a kidnapping situation just happened. But they're just glad that you're okay. But if someone tries to offer you tickets, make sure you see them in their hands and not fall for that trick of following them to their car, because something like this might happen.
I work at an arcade. About 3 months ago, I was working a normal Saturday shift. That was usually 5 p.m. to midnight, which is when we closed. It usually would be pretty busy for most of the shift, until about 10 or 11 p.m. when things would get pretty quiet. This day was no different. I stayed pretty busy working the concessions for a while, then I changed to cleaning, where I was walking around sweeping and disinfecting machines that weren't in use. The arcade had a large area with games, and then had a small bowling alley, as well as a laser tag area in the back.
Wow, that sounds fun. Never got to play laser tag, but I'm too old to mess with stuff like that now. So let's continue.
Our laser tag was currently not in use because we were making some small changes to it. It was only going to be out for about a week because it was a very popular game with the customers. I went around sweeping and cleaning in areas that were less crowded. At about 9 p.m., I saw a man by the laser tag area. He was just looking around, and then he walked right into the doorway, which was supposed to be locked. I went over there to tell the man that he couldn't be back there. I walked into the room, which was pretty dark. I stood in the doorway and said that the laser tag was closed and he needed to leave, but there was no response. I walked farther in and looked around. He wasn't anywhere to be seen. I turned on all the lights that I could, but it was still pretty dark in there. Everywhere I went, I couldn't find the man. Eventually, after about 5 to 10 minutes of being in there, I figured he must have left and I went back out. I went back to work and it actually went by pretty fast. Finally, 11 o'clock came around and everything was pretty quiet. I only had an hour left, so I cleaned some more and then started to put things away. Many of my coworkers went home, and finally, midnight came. We started to close down, and by that time it was just me and Amanda, who was the manager. I went around the arcade for one last sweep of the floors, but when I got to the corner where the laser tag was, I froze. I saw the man from before, peeking out of the room. He had an angry look on his face. I wasn't sure what to do. I knew he had seen me. I decided to just tell him in a firm voice that we were closed and he needed to leave now.
Yeah, at first I'd be wondering why on earth is there a guy going into the laser tag room and it's not even in operation and they're about to close, unless he was trying to do a 24-hour challenge and he got mad that he was spotted by the employee and he's refusing to leave, or he was planning on robbing the place. Either way, the employee has every right to keep shouting at him, telling him to go, or just run back to your manager to get the police involved if he doesn't want to cooperate.
But instead, he ducked back into the laser tag room once again. I went back to tell Amanda. When I told her, she said she would come with me to talk to the man. We arrived once again at the laser tag area and went inside again. Amanda called out to the man. Once again, he was nowhere to be found. We looked everywhere, this time for about 30 minutes. After the laser tag area, we searched the whole building, but he was nowhere. Once again, we figured he somehow left, and we decided to go home. I don't know who that man was, but we never saw him again.
Okay, that would definitely be a scary experience at an arcade. Seeing a guy walk into the laser tag room, but when you go in there to confront him, he's nowhere to be found. I guarantee you he was hiding very good somewhere in that room, and they didn't see him. But then he got mad when he got spotted by the employee, so apparently he did ditch out of there before him and the manager showed up. He disappeared almost like a ghost. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Nighttime Spooks related content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, so that's a wrap, and that's day long.